Hello, folks, and welcome to the Friend or Foe Lounge. I am your friendly neighborhood shoutcaster Shargan, back after a little bit of a break myself. It was a very much longer one. My brother got married, so I was out of town in England. Got to see Lolo in person, so that was pretty cool. I have got joining me for this very special kind of like closeout the season lounge session. We've got the three Joshes once again: Utility Monster, Joushi, and Ahntye. Guys, this was like, I'm just honestly like, I caught up on a couple of the grand finals games. Like, I was having to like catch the VODs because I wasn't able to watch it live just because of timing. But oh my god, straight up, like all three of y'all, I've got the like RLS versus Rex that go into game 5 was just, oh my goodness. But let's go ahead and start with the Yubi versus HBK game. So I'm glad I've got Utility Monster here for this, so you can kind of give us a little bit of an insight. And just to kind of jump on over to this.
Would you like to stream for us so we can see it?
Is it not playing?
It's in Discord.
Oh, god damn it. Because I don't have permissions for this channel, I can never see like the red live thing.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's...
I just need 4 heads.
All right, let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and play like the basic, universal basic income.
My audio.
Doesn't Jida mostly just play?
He's a 3-trick.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's like
Renekton,
3 champions. You
Camille.
knock those out, and you basically don't have a mid laner.
Yeah. Carver's too polite to flame people like explicitly, so I think that's how he flames people. Is he's like nice about things that they're clearly not good at. I don't understand it, but
It's kind of like
not
it's kill with kindness philosophy, I guess.
know. Like he's good at his 3 champions, but he's not a very diverse player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, he's pretty decent. Yeah, he's pretty decent at those characters, but I also have never seen him play like not those 3 characters.
Yeah, and we just banned 2 of them, and the third one was Renekton, which was not a character in the patch. So it's like you can play Renekton. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, like going into the season, like both Pangusol and I had a Renekton like very heavily practiced, and then they like gutted him, or it was like, well, that kind of sucks.
Sad.
Well, and they still picked him in pro, so they had to gut him again. And then the second gutting was what we played playoffs on, and that one was like, he was actually 44% win rate character. Like, it was unplayable garbage.
I was very sad because Renekton is one of those characters that even a lot of members of Rex kind of forget that I play, just because I haven't played it in the past year because it's just not been good in solo queue. But it is really, really good for just like setting up dives, and at the professional level, it's just really good at the times it needs to be good. And then it is okay like as the game gets later, but it's kind of interesting how little FoF meta kind of reflects that pro stuff.
Well, maybe if you were good at Renekton, then you'd actually get to play it.
If Renekton was like, solid this season, like more solid this season, I would have played it. If people didn't keep giving me Set or Irelia,
which they let you get
the
quite
one
often.
thing about Renekton is it has a lot of counter picks that are not present in pro that are just like rampant.
I remember
that.
You don't get me wrong, I remember that.
Anyway,
I remember those scrims.
Game 1 draft here. So Heimerdinger, Camille are 2 of the champions Jida plays, so we're going to ban those and force them to Renekton as his 3rd comfort pick. And then Nico is sort of the one non-assassin that Spears plays comfortably, and so we want to, because Civilux champion pool is so good against assassins, he plays Annie, Galio, Lissandra, Malzahar. Like, you can't play assassins into it comfortably.
Right.
So we take away Nico, and it's like, play an assassin, we dare you. We first picked Galio because it's a Civilux comfort special, and also Prolupal's been dominating on it a lot. He's been roaming really effectively on it, and so we wanted to prevent that. And they deny Nocturne Galio, which I think is smart.
I loved the game 1 draft, like from both sides.
Yeah.
Does that?
Do you want to stick to the draft real quick, share again, so I can?
Here.
Yeah. So Rakan is sort of the backup roaming support, I guess. We've been playing Galio support a little bit, so it was a threatened flex, and then we locked Maokai, so that's also a flex between support and top, but we expected Maokai support going in. And then Kha'Zix is just good into Nocturne. They nerfed it since, but Kha'Zix in the patch is very strong. And then no surprise, they lock Renekton, so we can't, pinch their top pool more, but that means that they've locked Renekton, which is not super scary. We banned 280 carries. They play Ziggs here, which opens up them the Zed. Zed into Galio is playable. It's not amazing, but it's AD champion into Galio, who's better against AP assassins, so it's fine. So they're setting up for that last pick. We expected it. Sivir is good into Ziggs. You sort of wave clear him, and then you have a really early spike because we play lethality Sivir, and we have a really good run-in kill people composition. And then Cho'Gath survives the lane against Renekton wonderfully, and is just way more useful in team fights. So that was our plan. Is sort of, we are just stronger mid game, and we like slightly outscale here. Like all of our characters, for the most part, are slightly stronger as the game goes on, with the maybe exception of lethality Sivir, but. And we just have such a easy to execute team fight run at them comp.
I mean, this is like your quintessential Yubi.
Yeah, and this is what we picked all last season. I actually think that it's surprising we got sort of the Maokai, Sivir, Galio. That's like what we played all last season, but we actually didn't play it that much this season. So understandable that you would maybe think that we don't think it's strong anymore, or that we pivot away from running this kind of thing. But no, our players just hate it because it's boring, but we win a lot with it.
I mean, it's your bread and butter.
Exactly. It's like your bread and butter is going to get you fed, and it's going to get you to the end. So it's like boring sucks to play sometimes, but hey, it's going to get you a win. It's going to get you a win.
Yeah. So this was sort of, we were glad we got this. They picked also, for the most part, comfort. I mean, Zed is one of Spears' best 3 champions. Nocturne is one of the champions that Idris has had the most success on. It denies the Galio Nocturne. Rakan is another roaming support, which Pro loves to do. So I think their draft makes sense. I think this is sort of both teams playing
really narrow win conditions.
Yeah, right? I think like, that
you need Nocturne Zed to pop off.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that their draft is comfort. I also think that their draft ends up being harder to execute against our draft. Like I think that's just sort of, it's not unlucky because we knew it was going to happen going in. That's why we're really got into it. But it is a little bit unfortunate for them that the way that they like to draft and the way that we like to draft, like if we're both allowed to get that, their version happens to lose to our version, right? Like that's not, like you have to draft around that, but that's an unfortunate starting point to have to start from. So
it's the classic rock paper scissors.
Yeah. So they're basically saying, okay, let's see what happens, and we can adapt from here. But let's start with comfort. And in fairness, they have a reasonable laning phase, which is I think where H-Block is strongest. I think that Idris especially is really good at making things happen, but everyone on their team is a really strong laner. So they have an interesting topside invade for Vision. Nothing ends up happening, but because we see Ziggs Rakan invade our blue, it allows Jeff as Sivir to pull the wave bot lane. And then when Ziggs and Rakan level 1 try and walk into the lane aggressively, they end up dying for it because Ziggs level 1 is terrible. So I don't think any summoners get blown. I think maybe Proluple blows Ignite, but
so it's
a really nice knock-up to save Flash.
Yeah, that was such a good knock-up.
That was really well done.
Yeah, but they get Vision, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard part here is that Ziggs and Rakan have to now rotate all the way to bot lane through River, and Sivir gets to pull the wave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And so you can see them like they're still running, and they try to run in through River to avoid missing CS, but it's too aggressive. Like Maokai Sivir just wins level 1, so they end up both dying. Because it turns out that this is illegal. And Jeff basically sees him, he's like, this is illegal. And he immediately starts fighting.
He goes, wait, this, you're not allowed to do this.
That's what he says in our comp. He's like, this is illegal. They can't do this. Because we've actually tried to play Ziggs, and Jeff and Brian specifically can't play Ziggs. Jeff's Ziggs is fine, but Brian likes to fight too much, and Ziggs can't fight early. And so we've lost a lot of games trying to fight people early on Ziggs spot lanes. Mm-hmm. So they're very familiar with exactly why Ziggs cannot fight.
It's honestly, I think it is also good to call out just Brian saying in general, because that dude in support has been stupid good.
Yeah. But he's just really aggressive.
Very good at laning.
He's very good at laning. His out of lane is fine. Like he's not like actively bad out of lane, but his laning is what's so strong about him, and he's so good at fighting people.
Was there anything you guys tried to do to get him better outside of just the laning? Like, is that why you kept putting on champions like Maokai and
play
stuff?
Final Fantasy.
you didn't take his Final Fantasy subscription away?
We tried.
You tried?
Unfortunately, his credit card information was already input to the service, so he kept getting auto resubscribed.
Yep.
No, so the plan was basically to put him on things that are easy to execute, but then also are hard to super overextend on.
Right.
And easy to follow up with, so that we can back him up when he goes aggressive, because as long as we're able to be there, like even if it's maybe not the perfect decision, it's usually salvageable. So Maokai is pretty easy to follow up on, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
This is an interesting game. We saw Nocturne coming down. We knew he was going to come. We just thought we had more time that bot lane could buy. So I thought I could finish Gromp and come, and it turns out I couldn't. So Jeff dies for it. I think they can play a little bit safer, and I can get the Gromp, or I can just skip the Gromp and come, but a little bit of miscommunication. So they get some kills back, and their bot lane sort of is back in the game.
Oh, well, so that right there, the explosive package that Echo dropped.
Yeah, no, they play it well.
Yeah. Like that was really well timed.
No, they play it really well, but if we see them coming through this pink ward, which we do, it's never the case that we should die to it.
Yeah. Are there any key points of this game that you kind of want to talk about? Because otherwise, this lounge is going to take 8 hours.
No, it's like I was just gonna say, like that's pretty much like like all I really saw first game.
The third dragon fight is the most interesting part of this game, and then sort of that 5-minute segment.
Okay.
Which I think happens in about 18 minutes or so, 15 to 20 minutes.
I was gonna say, this is like, what was it, like a 28-minute game?
I think it was low 30s. Yeah, right here. So the third dragon's about to spawn. Kills are pretty even. They're up 1,000 gold off of the first tower. If you back up a little bit so that we can see this fight start, I get engaged on by Zed. So I'm right here. I'm running through river bottom to make sure that our Cho'Gath can walk up from bot lane safely. And I walk over this, and Zed sort of comes over the wall and instantly engages on me. And so this is how the fight starts. Like, we weren't planning to fight this, but we have river control, so we figured, hey, why not? And they actually have a pretty good engage. Galio has to teleport in, so they have a small man advantage for a little bit. But we end up trading our support for their top laner, and Carver buys so much space here in that choke so that the rest of the team can't follow up, and we actually get the Renekton.
Watching you almost one-shot yourself jumping over the minefield.
You know, it happens. And Spears thinks he can kill
happens.
Jeff, but I didn't actually recall, so I kill him. And then I'm like, wow, I'm so strong. I just killed someone. Let me go kill myself again. So I tried to kill Jida. Oh, I died. So before this entire play, the kill score was 6-5. So we've gone 2 for 2 so far. And then they start dragging, but we don't want to give it up. So we reset some people and teleport them back, and everyone else goes back and keeps fighting. And then it's just nonstop fighting. Eventually, we 2 for 2 again. I think Sibilok dies, and they end up being the dragon.
Yeah.
But this is sort of the point in the game where they're strongest, and the fact that we go even though we lose the dragon, we should have played it better and lost less. Maybe see the dragon and get some waves here or something. But the fact that this is sort of their power spike, they have to make something happen, and all they get is an even fight and 1 dragon when we're already up 2 is sort of not enough. And then in the next 5 minutes, before the next dragon is spawning, we end up getting a nice pick in mid lane that gives us a 3rd dragon. And on soul point with our comp, they just can't contest. So they make some desperate things happen. It looks like they sort of just take losing fights and lose, but they have to do something.
Yeah.
And they just don't have good options anymore. So this moment, the fact that their power spike right there only gets this is sort of, even though their game state is not lost here, they still have things they can try, is sort of the turning point in the game, I think, and from how we felt about it, even though, we lost the dragon.
Yeah, you lost the dragon. You end up winning the war, though. You end up winning this. So for those who haven't watched it, go to FFS VODs. You can actually catch all of these games. So if you're getting spoiled right now, this is your fault. So with the fact that it was a 3-0 series, was there anything in particular that you expected out of HBK that you were able to shut down, or was there some kind of situation that you're just like, wow, I can't believe they're playing into our hands so perfectly well? Game 3 is the one that makes me kind of think about that specifically, just because of the fact that it was 10-32. Yeah,
I think game 3, I think first of all that especially Idris and Pro Lupul had just an off day in general. I think that I don't think they played super notably poorly in games 1 and 2, but I think they're capable of much better. I think those two are sort of the playmakers and unsung heroes of HBK. And the fact that they weren't getting as much done as they normally do is partly because we were playing really well early game, and that's what we were focusing on, is not letting them get anything done. But also I think they just had an off day. I think that on a different day, they play better and it's a closer series. And I think by the time game 3 rolled around, they were honestly just a little bit tilted. I think more than anything, I think that I don't think it was anything we did. I think it was just they knew that they could play better and knew that they weren't, and sort of felt like the series was getting out of hand, which is unfortunate, but it happens. It's sort of the reality of sort of these series where it seems close but it doesn't go your way.
Yeah, and I honestly, whenever I saw that it was only 3 games, I was really shocked, because I thought that HBK, out of all of the teams in the Luna League, they were the ones who had the biggest potential to shut you guys down, because Yubi dominated Luna this season.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had one of our 2 losses to them. I mean, going into the series, I never said this in any sort of trash talk videos or whatever, because I wanted to be the confident, we're going to 3-0 them type of voice. But I thought it was going to be 3-1. I thought that it was very unlikely we were going to sweep. And I wouldn't have been surprised by any result except for them 3-0ing us. I thought there's no way we get 3-0'd, but they could beat us 3-1. If you told me before the series that, oh yeah, they beat you 3-1, I'd be like, yeah, that sucks. And I think we probably could have played better if that happens, but I believe it. So the fact that it was a 3-0, I think, was a little bit surprising to me. But I also think that it was relatively close 3-0. So this draft was interesting. So game 2, this
is the one I know Ahntye wants to talk about.
This one hurt my soul.
Okay, so game one, we picked blue so that we could get red game 2. And we figured that they would think about what we did game 1, and we are actually doing something completely different. So we leave the Heimerdinger open. We still ban the Nico. We ban the Galio because they could first pick it. We ban the Jarvan from Idris, sort of getting him off of comfort. It's a little bit weaker in this patch, but he played it a lot throughout the season, so we figured we didn't want to give it to him. They first pick Heimerdinger. We don't think they could beat Senna set, in general, so that was why we just lock it blind. And then as soon as they lock Lucian, that signals to us that Spears is probably going bot lane, because they did that against BBZ. And then the Rel is fine, it's just an engaged support. So we pick Kale, that's our answer to Heimerdinger, that's why we left it open. In my draft notes, I have that we need to ban Aurelia, because Tokyo Tree is an Aurelia main in solo queue, and it's Kale's worst matchup. So I just brain farted here, and we banned Diana. I literally banned Echo, and then I forgot to check my notes again. I was like, wait, what do I ban? I guess Diana, why not? But that should be an Aurelia ban, so this should never even happen. And we lock Kha'Zix, they lock the Aurelia, and I'm like, oh shit, I should not have let that through. And then the Poppy jungle is, I guess, something that Idris I think can play most things, because he's he has comfort on Jarvan and everything. He's just like, yeah, I'll just first time this and I'm fine. I'm a reasonable aggressive jungler that can play Poppy. So because they lock the Aurelia and we think that's going against Kale, it's unplayable for Kale. It's awful. So we have to lock Urgot here. This is not planned. Civilok plays Urgot. It's sort of his most bruisery champion that he's comfortable on. And the plan here is to have Kale and Urgot go sit in top Pixel Bush, waiting for Heimerdinger and Aurelia to show mid and top. And then whichever one Aurelia goes to, we send the Urgot there. And then that way we don't have to deal with the terrible Kale lane. And we're planning to constantly swap back and forth if they swap back and forth. So just a mistaken draft from me. And we think that we've salvaged it, but not a favorable. I think this draft is much better if Aurelia is banned.
Yeah, honestly, looking at this draft in Green Room, I was actually really excited. I thought HBlock had a pretty interesting draft, but also one that could definitely work. For example, Lucian Rel into Senna set. While not necessarily favorable, Senna always being able to threaten taking away Set's shield means that Lucian's burst damage isn't fully negated. Aurelia into Kale, ridiculously solid. Poppy being able to help disengage and other things like that. Overall, I didn't hate this draft. It's just once I saw the lane assignments is when I started breaking down.
Yeah, the lane assignments. So Go for it.
I hate this draft from both sides.
Yeah.
Because you look at this draft, and how does either side ever get a fight started? Right? Like, if you are ever behind, you have no comeback mechanisms within that, that local sphere, right? Rel and Irelia and Poppy all need to find flanks or they can't engage. Set needs to find a flank or he can't engage. Urgot needs to find a flank or he can't engage. So both these teams just kind of run at each other with these insane range tools of like Senna, Kale versus like Heimerdinger or Lucian, and just says, okay, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. And then you go stand there. And one of you has to be dumb enough to just like, oh, I think we're stronger, and take a fight. And that's why this game was like so back and forth, because neither team could do anything. Right? And they just kind of went and fought over and over again.
Yeah, so we knew that going in, and I disagree with that a little bit, because I think that very clearly we have the scaling edge. So eventually, especially with the Kale, but also the Senna, they do have to come into us at some point. And so that was our justification for picking limited engage, is they have engage and they want to come in, and we are the scaling team, so they will have to come in at some point. So if we can ever set up, in river around a dragon or a baron, they'll have to come fight us eventually. So that was our justification. I also don't think Lucian is that long range. I think they do in order, like Heimerdinger, yeah, but everyone else sort of has to be melee. So I think that it's better if Irelia is gone and we don't have the lane matchups, but I think even like if we make it to 30 minutes even, I think that we have more play than they do.
Yeah, I mean, my point is more along the lines of like, I don't think this is necessarily an optimal draft, but it's fun, it's spicy, I could totally see it working in certain ways. And I was really excited for this. It's just, like I said, once we got to lane assignments is when things started being wait.
So they don't want to put the Heimerdinger into our Kale, which makes sense. So they put the Lucian top into the Kale, which I don't like. It should be Irelia. And they put the Irelia bot lane with the Rel, which also doesn't make that much sense. So it's sort of they wanted to throw us for another curveball, which is look at these weird lane assignments we have. And I don't think we played around it really well, but I think objectively it's not the best.
Yeah, as far as paper is concerned, you take Irelia from the freest matchup in the game to, one of her worst spot lane matchups in the game.
Yeah. But Idris gets a really nice early gank off. We don't track him properly. We have a Warden Raptors early that we used the information wrong on, and that's also mostly on me. I was thinking about something else, but I was really distracted this game mostly off of draft, honestly, because I was just constantly thinking about like, oh, why did I let this early through? I literally have this written down that I shouldn't. So I was off, especially the first 5-10 minutes. But Poppy sort of sneaks around our vision, makes it bottom, and gets a double kill, and that really puts the Irelia in a strong position in a lane that I think is hard, but if she is able, because I think normally she can't force. She can't just go on set Sana and expect to win. But once she gets 2 kills, it's like, okay, maybe. And maybe our set and Sana just can't do anything anymore. So that's how a lot of sort of these strong lanes go. It's like, oh, it's strong until they get behind and then they can't do anything.
As far as this lane's concerned from botline Irelia's perspective, if Irelia can get an engage at any point, she can actually just straight up kill Senna for it. It's just that if Irelia ever does get an engage, Senna has mispositioned. Like, Irelia never should be allowed to do anything.
Right, but when you're this far ahead, you can position that should be illegal, and suddenly they're allowed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, a nice early pathing from Idris, and this is the kind of thing that I think really he's done all season, is his find these creative routes that put his team ahead early. And normally HBK doesn't lose these. I mean, they get these kinds of leads and they just snowball it everywhere little by little until the game is over. So I was a little bit worried here.
What was it this game that actually kind of like allowed you to pull it around, that you think? The two things are they overforce a couple of bot dives. Our bot red tower is MVP of the game. And they end up giving, I think the worst one is when they kill our bot lane, and then I come and hold the wave, and they try and dive me as I get there to hold the wave, and they end up giving me a double kill, and they lose dragon. And I think that's really important because we're a Kale comp, we can't contest dragon early. Like, it's impossible. So the fact that we get a free dragon means that we are able to delay their potential soul point clock by 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is really key here. So it's right here.
They think they can kill me. Possibly they can if they play this better. I think Aurelia misses stun, and that's really bad. But I think I trade at least one back either way.
You mean after this particular stun? Because it looks like this
yes.
one. Yes.
So right here, Aurelia misses stun.
Oh, I see. Yep. I was thinking
that's not a stun you should ever miss.
I was gonna say, visually, it looked like it hit because I was seeing the rel stun come across.
Yeah. I don't think I necessarily die or die without going 2 for 1 because I still have flash and I get to save it for most of the play. But it definitely becomes much more playable for them.
Yeah, I think you trade rel. Irelia definitely lives though.
Yeah. So, but they misplay it horribly. I get 2 kills and most of the wave and the dragon, and they get nothing. So that's sort of a huge breath of air that we've been given that we didn't necessarily deserve based on the first 5 minutes of the game. And getting this dragon delays their clock so much, and then it just sort of turns we slowly do get a little bit more and more behind because we have a scaling comp, and we're not used to playing scaling comps. We normally play more aggressive comps. Both these teams do, and we were trying something new that we thought would counter their lanes. We don't play it super well, but they don't necessarily capitalize on everything we do wrong, and so we sort of stabilize the game at sort of a 3,000 gold deficit, and that's not enough because we have such a scaling advantage, and their comp just doesn't make sense as the game goes on. And then eventually we get level 16 KO, and then once we get level 16 KO, it's our game to lose, and we almost do. So at that point, then it's messy on our end. It's like, oh, we should be much more clean in how we're closing this game out. We have a huge fight advantage, and like we're losing fights with Elder. It was messy, but our comp was too good late game for us to mispilot it at some level, so it didn't matter.
Joushi, do you have any thoughts on it being too good late game?
I mean, it is Yubi's like game to lose, but the big thing that like I again want to look at is like the scaling advantage that Yubi has, while it exists, only matters if H block lets them play, because even after Kale hits 16, Irelia can still get solo kills in the side lane. And so Yubi is now forced to group and go for fights, and they don't have ways to force those fights.
Yeah.
Right? HBK can give up a lot while Irelia is in the side lane, and it ends up being a really rough spot.
This is one example of a play where we overextend. So we see the solo kill happen, and Jeff and I think that we can avenge this play. Jeff has heal cut at this point, which is why I think that it's possible. And I'm a 5-0 Kha'Zix. In actual fact, we are not strong enough. And then I just give over a massive shutdown because I'm a 5-0 Kha'Zix. And this death, I think, though, is actually quite good for us in terms of how we thought about the game, because it was enough for everyone to realize that, like, oh, we have to slow it down now. Like,
no, that's an wake up call.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to realize. So it's a really bad moment for our game state, but it was good for the way we were playing the game, because I think we actually do a really good job from here of slowing the game down. And then the next big mistake HBK makes, they don't have enough of it. They get Baron here, but they end up not having quite enough of an advantage to contest level 16 Kale. And then eventually, though, we make a mistake. Kale dies solo to Aurelia in side lane, and they still end up giving up a soul.
I will say one of the things that really stood out to me was I don't think Kale ever ended up building heal cut. And if you end up having the side lane into Irelia, if you buy heal cut as Kale, at that point, I think you just straight up win. But if you don't have it, there's 0% chance.
The reason we didn't is because we didn't think it was winning, even with heal cut.
Because Irelia also wants shield, though, I think that heal cut actually just does so much there.
Maybe, but our thought process is we just hold the Kale under tower and then play for 5v5. So we weren't playing for the split at all.
Yeah, I feel.
So here we lose Kale in bot lane, but we're on soul point. As part of when they got Baron, they lost tempo on the third dragon, which is fine. That's a reasonable trade they can make. But so here, it's a close fight. Barely Aurelia wins. Aurelia can't do that with heal cut. That's true, but I
don't know if that was a barely win.
No, that's a barely win.
That's barely wins. It looks good after the fact because Aurelia has Triumph and Death Stance. But it's a barely win. But here we still have bot river position, and so I just rush the dragon, and they're not fast enough to contest, and so we just get this soul, and the soul here is huge. It gives us so much additional combat power on top of our natural champion scaling, and from here I don't think we play it well, but we have just such a natural advantage that we end up winning.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, based off like the stuff we talked about before and Joshi's mentioned in terms of like importance of drakes, the ones that come online at the 20-minute mark, you've got 4 of those drakes with the infernal and the 3 mountains. So like that's just, I don't know if there's anything HBK could even possibly build, even if they weren't so far behind. Or no, it's even. It's even right now. Gold.
It's even gold, but we have a scaling edge, so it's effective advantage for us, and then we have like 3,000 gold worth of shields.
I just realized Sokyochi started that off with queuing a melee minion. I was wondering why they weren't queuing like towards the casters, and it's like, oh, your queue's just on cooldown.
Yeah. And so, but this game, I think that if Idris and Perlupal are more on their game, they turn their early lead into more, because they, like, by drafting the KL, we're giving them agency. We're basically saying we don't think you can get enough of a lead early, and we turned out to be right, but I think we didn't play it well enough that on a different day they couldn't have beaten us with this draft. So I think it was a cute draft. I'm glad that we tried it, because I think that having to permaban Heimerdinger and not being able to threaten any counter is a little bit annoying in draft, but
I feel like you saying that hurts Joshi's soul a little bit.
What?
As it's a cute draft and they're glad they got to play it.
I get that. We definitely, Rex does that a couple times. Like, definitely do that during the regular season.
Basically, if we can't threaten this draft, Heimerdinger is a permaban the entire series. So at some level, this is a best of 5 game. Like we know this is new. We think that we're favored. We think it's a good strategy. But even if it's not, we need to know, because we need to know as soon as possible that we have to ban Heimerdinger the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And we decided even after this game that even though we win, we're like, yeah, we're banning Heimerdinger.
Well, personally, it's like just dealing with a Heimerdinger is frustrating enough on its own. Like, it's just annoying.
And the problem is that Freelancer plays for team fights, and Heimerdinger's whole goal is to beat you so hard in lane that you don't get there. And we'd rather just get to team fights and handshake on, we're going to lane top lane. We think that we can just team fight better. And I think that's what happened in most of these games. The first 2 games, like, we were down a little bit in lane. Ace Block's early game is so good. But the problem is they're so reliant on their early game being good. Their mid to late game it's fine, especially from ahead, but they weren't getting the leads that they were hoping for. I think that was frustrating to them mentally as well. So I think you see that in this game, where they realize that what they're doing early game, even though it's working, it's not working well enough. And they really go all out on making something happen early, and it just totally backfires. I think this draft is their worst of all the 3 games. They picked LeBlanc into Malzahar. Spears plays Syndra. That's a much better matchup here. LeBlanc is unplayable to Malzahar. I don't think Syndra's that good. I think it's balanced around competitive play, but it's fine.
I think LeBlanc is better in Malzahar than you give it credit for, but it requires like the big thing is it requires jungle attention.
Yeah, so
like,
they give it. To be fair, they give that.
Well.
Yeah, no, Spears plays this really well, but it's hard for him to do something playing well, because no matter how strong he is, he's getting Malzahar ulted. And so he has to be 1,300 gold plus being fed ahead, or he has to be where Malzahar isn't, and you can't do that all the time.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the rest of your comp shuts down LeBlanc really hard as well. Even just like
so we also have Channel, we also have Maokai, which is impossible.
You also have Maokai, you also have Poppy.
Poppy W, like so it's not just the Malzahar, but I think that I don't even think it's a good enough lane to justify picking it. So I think Syndra is better.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you take Syndra here, like if you take Syndra here, you just start off a fight with ulti on like the frontliner and then just E through the team. Like, Yasuo
into Misfortune makes sense. I think it's a little desperate. I don't think it's something that they were familiar with, the way that they played the Yasuo. So I think it was sort of a Hail Mary of we know we need to smash lanes, let's just pick a hard counter and hope that we execute it well.
The thing is,
I get.
Yeah, and if you're trying to smash lane though, you don't tower dive level 1 or 2.
Sure you do, if it works.
It works, but right here against Brian saying it doesn't work.
This should work, yeah. Look at Brian though.
Yeah, well,
this is Look at. Okay, Brian's dead. Brian should be so dead.
I mean, after the flash pull.
So
like HBK makes like three
mechanical mistakes,
important misplays here,
so Brian should die.
If you don't any of them, Brian dies.
Yeah, and Tokyo Tree should not die. And the fact that this goes wrong, I think they basically lose their minds. Because this play should work. Like this is so frustrating. So Flash Pull misses, Yasuo misses a Q later. Right here he misses a Q. He misses a Q there.
I'm gonna slow it down. So I think the first mistake is the Alistair.
Yeah. So Alistair, doesn't flash into W range. This part's good. Knock up, heal, but Ignite's late. Ignite's late, and then right here Yasuo misses the last Q after the flash.
Yeah.
He gets knocked back, and then he misses Q right there. And then because he misses Q, he doesn't get Triumph, so he dies to the misfortune in the tower. Brian lives, and now their counter matchup is invalidated because they're not strong enough to make it work. They're just down gold. And they're tilted out of their minds because they've just sacrificed Jarvan's entire early route to make this happen. And they've come up behind. So it's really in sort of an awful game state. Soul Killer is nice. That should never happen. Spears deserves mid MVP.
Spears played like the laning phase ridiculous.
Yeah. And then we get another counter gank on a bot lane gank or something.
Yeah, I skipped over like the next 4 kills.
It's just one kill, I think.
So
I think that they gank bot lane and then I come in and counter gank and we end up getting a kill on
the solo
I think,
killer?
No, it's when it's 2-2.
2-2.
Yeah.
It was, so right here, Jarvan comes bottom, and I come bottom a little bit late, a little later than I would have liked. I thought I was
still in slow motion.
Yeah, no, it's slow motion, but it's also like I said.
So we see Jarvan, and I think we have a ward, or we saw him somehow. I don't remember how, but we know he was here. So I'm coming down after finishing Crab.
Shen.
And then Shen saves the misfortune. They don't take that into account, and we end up getting this kill. We turn into Dragon, and at this point, we have a draft that outskills theirs. They picked to just smash lanes, and they didn't. They messed up one play, and then they got that play countered, and so they need to make something happen, and they sort of lose their minds into like, anything is better than this. So they all dive into this dragon pit, trying to steal this dragon. They die more, and it just gets worse and worse. And sort of the game is over from 10 minutes because the way they drafted, they need to smash lanes, and they only smashed mid. And that's not enough because we have so many ways to stop this LeBlanc from being scary.
Yeah,
LeBlanc is still scary, but like it's so hard with all of the things we can do.
I was gonna say this dragon dive, it just kind of hurt me a little bit.
They need to make something happen though, and I don't think this is the right way. But like I understand it because if the game just like continues, they will slowly lose the game until they do something that will look silly because they have to, and they will lose. So they have no good options anymore. So
I was gonna say, talking about Shen, there was another, let's see, right around.
Yeah, I think that we close out the game fine. Yeah, another good channel.
Yeah,
I don't think that we play this perfectly by any means, but we're up enough. We don't make any plays that we deserve to get punished for.
Yeah, and I mean this right here, like just injuries.
He's trying to make something. Yeah, he flashes EQs. Like that's why we had no clues there, and channel saves the day. Like
that was really well done by Freelance.
Yeah, no, it was. The fact he's watching was really impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, and from here the game is just over. They don't have any.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on this too much because unfortunately, it's like I feel bad for HBK for how hard this game ends up going.
And I think that, like I said, I think this is a mental sort of war of attrition from the first 2 games where they're playing for lanes and they're getting these edges, but they're never quite enough, and so they lean into it harder and it just backfires.
See, that's what I was talking about. Like I mentioned it in a couple of the other lounges. Like, how do you feel about going to these best of 5s, and then we're about to get into the REX, the Rex versus RLS games. And that was a full 5-game series, so you guys could totally talk on the stress of that, going all the way to the end. But it's like I really feel like this is one of those situations where it's like if you're not mentally prepared, if you're not ready for those first 2 losses to basically be the absolute worst games of your life, coming back in game 3 is not going to happen, and this is kind of the outcome, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think if you just look at the first 2 games. If we play like that
they're
again,
so close. They're so close. In all honesty,
we deserve to lose. Like the fact that we won both of those is lucky. Like we deserve to. I don't like if we play 3 games like that, we deserve to lose at least 1.
Yeah, it's kind of like touching back on the point that I made. I'm not sure if I made it on broadcast, maybe a little bit before. But I did feel like some of the drafting felt a little bit disrespectful. Like game 2 draft, it was less that disrespectful, it's more that it's something new that I saw that I wasn't sure if, Yubi as a team had that like really prepared or like heavily practiced in comparison to other things that were open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, the Senna set stuff we've played for a long time, so that wasn't new.
Oh yeah. It was more like the Kale pick.
The Kale pick we've played a lot. That's one of Freelancer's most played in solo queue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something we've practiced a lot. We played Senna and Kale in preparation for this match, so it was prepared. It wasn't. We didn't just like think we were better. We can get away with it. It was like an entirely prepared thing. We just forgot about the Aurelia, and then I don't think that we maybe deserved to get punished more for our early game, and then I don't think we closed out cleanly. But by the time we got to close out, we just had such an advantage. It didn't matter. And that's sort of, I guess, the nice part is that at least we drafted a comp that when it was strong was so good we didn't have to play perfectly.
All right, so with that, we're going to hop over here now to the Rex versus RLS game.
That's us.
That is you guys.
I was in that one.
The second and third best Josh is in FoF.
Yeah, Burst Limit is better than us. That's true. That's true.
Darn.
Yeah, so talking about these, let's see. I don't have game 1 up right here. Let me pick.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv. FOF.
So, to kind of touch a little bit before we get into like the actual series on like how best of fives and like these long series end up shaking out, I think what you tend to notice is if you go back, because like Rafa records all of our comms. If you go back and like listen to our comms afterwards, in games 4 and 5, our comms are just so much worse than they were in the first 3 games. It's just a thing where you start going back into like muscle memory. What are your instincts like? And that's a thing where I think Rex is advantaged against a lot of teams because, as casters, we have that kind of stamina from doing that all the time. Like Doc isn't a caster, but he's a producer. And so he has an even harder job than the casters during these long series. And so we get to kind of go through that. And a lot of the things that we do in terms of like strategic shot calling and all the stuff like that has, I've been doing it for 7 years at this point, and it's a thing where it has just become second nature. So even though a lot of our like tactical like team fighting comms start to break down because they're not as practiced, the larger strategic stuff is still just like, okay, we're gonna play basic macro in League of Legends, and that's good enough against a lot of teams.
Yeah,
especially when they're tired as hell.
Yeah, I actually remember in our comms, like after game 5, I was like, I mean, they're casters, they're used to these game 5s at this point. But yeah, it was actually really interesting because, obviously, I'm not going to say anything negative in order to like bring down team morale or anything like that. Or, I'm not going to say anything like, oh yeah, you're totally going to beat us on like, the lounge or like trash talk or something like that. But I'm pretty sure that both War Leader and I were under the assumption that we probably would get 3-0'd getting into it because, we actually scrimmed Rex a little bit before finals, like during playoffs, and we got smashed. It was not close. It was not close at all. Yeah, and like for example, like Joushi was winning lane out. Actually, the only lane on our side that was winning consistently was our bot lane. And both top and mid lane were just kind of losing like on their own. So it was like, yeah, this is gonna be hard.
Joushi also thought it was gonna be 3-0 before the series.
I did. Yeah. The thing I'll say about it before we like start going into the games a little bit is during the regular season, Rex lost 4 games, and 3 of them I feel like, we looked at it afterwards and we're like, yes, this team beat us, but, and then we had like some kind of mitigating circumstance, right? Yes, INT beat us, but it's because Joushi failed his first grade reading test and drafted against the wrong 5 players. Yes, RLS beat us, but like Rafa mentally imploded. Yes, CFG beat us, but we were playing without me. right? And we were missing like a major strategic shot calling. And after talking to the players, they're like, yeah, we just kind of weren't sure what to do a lot of the game. And then the only team that beat us that we felt beat us without any modifications was Terracotta. And then after playing this first series against RLS, we had played them in scrims. The only time that we had lost, we lost but. And like when we started this, we thought it was going to be a 3-0, and then they beat us game 1 when we got what we wanted, and that terrified me. I was like, oh no, we're gonna have a real series. We're gonna have to like really play through this one.
I spent the full week preparing for a Graves top pick. I was like, there's no way that something this meta is not going to be played by Joushi when he already has played it before.
I want you to know that during this week, I had played 20 games of Graves in top lane.
Yeah, and I had played a hell of a lot of Kennen games, but I ended up never bringing them out.
I was wondering, okay, because I found that, and I was wondering if it was like, are they gonna let me play Gnar with the Kennen counter pick?
No.
So I was really wondering. Yeah. Anyway, so kind of looking at this draft, honestly, in game 1, I feel like both teams end up getting almost exactly what they want, right? We really wanted to play MF Amumu. We got the Graves as an intended flex. We saw the Gwen, and honestly, I just do not have practice in this matchup. I don't know any Gwen players that I could have practiced it, or I guess I could have played against Ashes of Dreams, like the coach.
Straight up,
thought about it.
Biggest thing. Sorry about interrupting. Yeah, but like it was straight up the biggest thing. I was like, you know what? I know Joushi plays Graves. I know this matchup sucks, but I know I probably have way more experience in it than he does.
Yeah, I played this matchup once, and it was like a year ago. Prior, and it was when Gwen was stupid strong, and I was just playing Graves. I like playing Graves solo lane, and it was rough back then, but I looked at it. I had played so much Graves, like, I got this. We're gonna be good, and I did get the first kill of the series.
That's true.
But yeah. So the rest of this was just kind of interesting. I thought, okay, so two things. One, we never understood the Jarvan ban. We were surprised by that every single time. And then the Lilia ban, we always thought it was about top lane more than it was about the jungle. But I know you messaged me afterwards, like, nah, that was mostly for Roth. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, because, Roth plays Lilia. Also, Lilia MF is really disgusting.
It is very strong.
Yeah, also...
We were playing to play top lane. We were never playing to play jungle.
Yeah, really interesting thing. Day of the finals, my mid laner and my AD carry get into a practice normal game, like to warm up before finals. And who else joins it but Doc? Doc straight up joins and plays support for my AD carry jungler and mid laner in a normal game before it starts, and he was like, yeah, they never let me play a Mumu, and Spencer was like, yeah, I don't know if they're gonna pick a Mumu. He said that they just like don't let him play. I'm just like, no, they're picking a Mumu.
Yeah, okay. Doc came back with two things to say. He was like, one, we can't let his kid play Misfortune. First thing he said. The second thing he said was like, yo, War Leader's comms are as chaotic as his gameplay.
I love it.
Like, that makes sense.
I do think though that this draft is actually similar, like not the draft, but like the thought process is pretty similar to the HBK Yubi, which is like we're gonna pick 5 champions that we're comfortable with, that we think have fine matchups, and we're gonna see who wins. And I think this one is a little bit less clear cut and who has just the draft advantage. I think that they both do very different things, so it's much more down to the gameplay. But I think it's interesting that like you start with comfort and you adapt from there based on what did work and what didn't work, because you always want the most possible like things you're familiar with in your draft as possible.
The Nocturne pick, so when we saw the Trundle, because we were expecting to be like, oh yeah, we'll just take Trundle into whatever they pick. So we see the Trundle takeaway and it's like, well, what do we pick now? And we're just like, okay, well, you feel like, so we can't. I don't think that we should put Richard on Shin Zhao into this. Sedge is like funny with Gwen Sedge, but like really bad into Trundle. And War Leader has actually been like saying that Nocturne will be a strong pick for like the last like few weeks going into the patch. Just calling out the Conqueror changes and everything. And with like 2 seconds left, he's like, hey, what about Nocturne? And I was like, oh my god, Nocturne would be so good here.
Yeah, Nocturne, I think, like Gwen was really impactful, but I think the Nocturne pick won the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like being able to turn off the lights on this comp was so strong.
I opted to take teleport this game. It actually took me a long time to decide if I wanted to go teleport or ignite for this lane, because in solo queue I've been mostly playing ignite.
I anticipated ignite.
Yeah, and the fact that I took teleport and then Nocturne just prevented me from joining like 3 fights was really, really impactful, because I think like during this game, honestly, the big fight I would want to look at here is around the Baron.
Oh my god, that fight was really good. There was also the dive in bot lane.
Are you talking about the...
Which dive?
I believe... Yeah, I believe it was this game where like...
Well, this play is tragic. I remember this play.
Oh, yeah?
Wrong timestamp in my brain, but...
Yeah, I mean, this happens a number of times where Doc and Alk Battery are just on different pages, right? And they never once get a Curse of Sad Bullet time to work. And it really sucks, because like look at where Alk Battery is now, right? He's just not here. Doc goes in.
But also, like, there's 2 preemptive flashes, and then Gwen immunes the Mumu ult. So it's like it almost is a 3-man, and instead it's a 0-man.
Yeah.
And the dubstep ignite. Was not worth it, but was really funny.
It was very funny. I was just like, are you serious?
Like, I think in comms, it was like, oh, I just sent it. It's fine.
Okay, I killed Josh. But yeah, I don't remember the dive this game, but there was also probably where I couldn't see it.
Yeah, there was one in bot lane. It was earlier in the laning phase. I think those were like my like second and third kill maybe.
Oh yeah, no. You did teleport down. I remember that a little bit. I think that put you guys slightly favored, but I think so. This upcoming fight around the Baron is where Doc mentally crumbled for like the next game and a half. So for the rest of this game and for a lot of game 2, he's a little checked out. It wasn't like over, but he was just like, But this is a big spot where, can we pause real quick? So Graves is still near Dragon, right? Like I am very far. I don't have teleport, so like the Nocturne preventing me from coming is like not relevant here. But this is where Rex kind of falters, right? Because Rafa is of the mind, I need to steal this Baron. But the rest of us like have to follow him. We have to do what he wants to. And I had made the calls like, no, just go fight them. He walks around. And so like watch what happens here with Doc, and imagine that Trundle is with him and Misfortune is standing in Pixel. Right? So we crumble our fight really, really badly, because this is our spot where like if we had played this correctly, we turn the game around. And we suddenly are not winning, but at least maybe winning, but at least equal in the game. And I think just like following up like this Graves pick, and you can play at full speed now. This is one of those spots where like where Mark, I was slightly worried that he was Rafa. I was slightly worried that he was going to get into the I need to solo carry games kind of mentality, because that's what he does when he tries to go for steals. But by the time this Graves shows up, like it's very obvious that we are still strong enough to take these fights. If we are actually able to take these fights, and when you get away, it breaks Doc, and we cannot play this game out anymore.
Yeah, going into the game, we actually made it clear in our comms, like, hey, if a Mumu ever is in a position to engage, turn off the lights and just focus a Mumu down. because Nocturne can shut down those team fights so well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that four-man ulti from Doc was so good. But, you know, if you can't see it, it's really hard in comps, honestly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This game, Zenzen almost single-handedly wins.
I was gonna say, it's like, this is
And
where you
almost
guys turn
single-handedly throws.
This game was painful.
All right, so if this game was painful, then what particular sections of it were like the big things that you guys feel like I'll start with Ahntye. Like, where was the moment that you thought you did the best, and the moment that you thought like was just absolutely going?
I mean, honestly, like early laning, I think that all of us were playing super early lane really well. Like, I had an early, health lead and trades on Joushi and stuff like that. And I walked up a little too close, got taunted under tower, is what it is. Escape had an early lead, and I think it was right behind Dragon Pit where we had a pretty nice fight going on, and he flashes directly into the enemy team. And at that point is when I think the game was kind of just over.
I think that's the second time I ult mid where he's like in Raptor corridor.
Yeah, so the thing about Shen is that we have banned it this entire season because us as a team, we always want to do things, and a lot of our, a lot of the things that we want to do are very based around like, oh, well, if they have this health bar, they have this and that, we win this fight. And Shen is always there just in time to mess up everything.
And that's the nature of Shen's. Like, that's just what you do.
It is incredibly hard to play around, and you can't really beat him in lane because he's just a brick wall. Like, he's designed to just exist.
Yeah.
Shen is like the ultimate neutralizing pick, which is why we tend to ban him.
Yeah, this is where escape flushes in, I think. Or he goes too far forward. Is it here? Oh, it's not this one. I think it's the next time I ult mid. Where the game kind of crumbles. I mean, there's the 2v2 top lane where Rafa walks out with hardly any HP, and we get a double kill there right after Zenzen solo kills Pengu Soul, and that was just like, oh well, that should be enough to end. But we also got like two solo kills in game 1, and weren't able to capitalize off of it. But the one other spot that I remember in this game was when Zenzen walks too far forward and gets his, I think, only death, or at least his first death in this game. But let's find the one where
I think this is the one you're talking about.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, Zenzen dies. I think this is where Zenzen no, it's not here. It's not.
No,
here.
I think this is your second mid.
Where escape dies. Maybe.
I think
Oh,
it's
that's
like
awesome.
way past that.
I think it was way earlier. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Shen ulti, right? Save Rafa.
Yeah. Well, this was trying to be aggressive, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Also
Yeah,
true.
no, I just skipped over it then.
This one is.
Good over the wall, the ulti. So you were talking about a Zenzen death?
Yeah.
Where was that?
So this is the game where Zenzen just dunks on War Leader, like kind of by himself.
Zen
And then
I mean,
really,
y'all are
really
15 and 2 by 26 minutes. So it's like, it's very clear that y'all had like control over the lanes this game.
yeah. Okay, so here this dive is really funny because we don't realize it, but Doc starts off taking this turret, and then I start taking the turret, and we're both kind of like, huh? How did that happen? Right, because he's tanking right away because there's no minions in range, and then once he drops, I start tanking, and I didn't realize I was tanking. And I think if we hadn't started taking the turret, maybe it goes well.
You know, I think so too. Like, that's kind of one of those Baron plays where you're just like, oh wait, our cannon minion is hitting from super far away.
Yeah, like what a, maybe if we don't just take 1,000 free damage to start that fight, maybe the fight goes well.
Right.
But yeah, so this is our first throw, but that one was a team throw. Are you looking for where escape goes forward?
I was. Yeah.
Okay. Go find Zenzen's death.
It's like when the game was relatively even, but
Yeah, it's pretty early.
Zenzen hasn't died yet, so that's the thing.
yeah, no, Zenzen's death is very late.
Yeah, he has 3 kills when he dies. He ends up 3-1 in like 10 or something.
Okay, so he dies here.
This. Yeah. So, there's a conversation about like Alk Battery versus Escape, which I thought was really interesting throughout the regular season because from what I understood, that vote was very tightly contested for like who was the best in the league.
We can look at the MVPs and get through this.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can talk about it. It happens more than once throughout this series and why I think Alk Battery is better, but not by like a super large margin. But this right here, pause.
What?
So, oh shit, we can't see it.
I was gonna say that's kind of.
Okay, here, yeah, this is good.
I wish I could control the map. One day we'll have like the full replays and like we'll be able to do like the 3D zoom in, like get down on the Rift level. So
yeah, Zane was really feeling himself for this part, and when he was standing in this brush, I felt super uneasy, but I didn't say anything. But in my mind, I was thinking, Zane, you gotta fucking back up. You gotta back up, and then we get to see immediately why. Right, because Ahntye flashes this wall, stuns him, and suddenly we cannot protect Vel'Koz. Right, he is now too far forward into the choke, and like he is more than half of our damage at this point in the game. Rafa isn't here. Alk Battery, like he can kind of do things, but when Vel'Koz is so far forward, Zach and Volibear are enough to kill him by themselves, even while I remind everybody, Ahntye is currently 1-7.
I just kept trying to make things happen, but it was just like,
Yeah.
This game was interesting because, like, after this game, we were just like, yeah, we got too hypey after game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
But it's a spot where, yeah, like we cannot protect Vel'Koz. Rafa isn't here, and this is where I think the casters started getting like, oh shit, are RLS going to win this game? We gave like 2,000 gold to Escape over the past 2 fights, and suddenly this Aphelios is really strong. But this was the thing where it's like, yeah, this was a mistake that Zenzen made, and it put us in a really awkward spot. We are no longer getting Mountain Soul right now. Instead, we have to back up, and we end up flipping it at the very end. But we were still so strong. And the big thing about this game that I remember and why I said like Doc was a little bit checked out, so because even when we had like a 10,000 gold lead this entire thing, Doc wasn't willing to engage, and that made our position really awkward because we needed to get fights started in order to win the game. And if our engage isn't willing to start fights, then this game ends up stalling out a lot longer than it probably should have, and things like that happen where, as the game goes longer, we're just going to make mistakes. And I think if Doc hadn't gotten shut down so hard on Amumu in game 1, I think this game is a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like the fact that y'all turn this around, turn it into a 1-1 makes things pretty exciting. It's like, okay, this is actually gonna be and then game 3 happened.
Yeah, it did.
So let's hop into this one real quick then.
Game 3, I think, was when the series actually got really interesting, because games 1 and 2 is like, oh, these teams, they're good enough that they can, get these incremental advantages and snowball the game. But game 3 was a shellacking.
It was very slacky game. So with this one, what was it that kind of like stood out to y'all? Just kind of like,
well, I get egregiously solo killed. There's some solo kills that happened. I'll say this: I looked it up afterwards. The solo kill rate during the series was 3-3.
Oh yeah.
And every single one of them, I think, was Ahntye going for a play, and half the time they worked, and half the time they didn't.
Well, sometimes
But this is a play where I think Rafa, when I start standing here and just spinning, I thought he was already in the bush. I thought he was a lot closer, And like here, I thought he's already in the bush. And if he's in the bush, I can do this,
Mhm.
right? Because Rafa comes out and then he gets the, even if I die, we get the return kill, which I'm fine with. But I'm wrong about where Rafa is. And then like this death is so, like, looking back at it is just embarrassing to watch. It was so bad.
Everyone's got one, so.
Everybody has at least one like egregious death throughout the series. This was mine.
Mhm.
Yeah, mine was in the last game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like like y'all
And-
traded sort of like major misplays. Game 2.
Also, I think
game
this is
3.
the only game. This might be the only game where top lane wasn't first blood. It's the first game of the series.
True.
Top lane wasn't first blood. I'm not sure it's the only one.
Mhm.
But it's also really bad because the whole point of Garen into Gwen is that it's unplayable for Gwen in lane, and so once it's playable for Gwen in lane, the game is over for Garen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the Garen pick. I looked up your OPGG during this game because I was confused why your Garen sucks so much. And you don't look at
For the record, I destroyed Ahntye with it in scrims.
Yeah.
My Darius.
You've played 2 games of Garen in the last 6 months according to your OPGG, and one of them was a
That sounds about
normal,
right.
and neither of them looked very impressive. So I was like, oh, I guess he just sucks at Garen.
Hey,
I mean, I played it more. I think I
if
probably
we're
played it more
taking-
in 7 high.
if we're taking scrims into account, like that Garen was.
Yeah, and you should take
Something
terms into account.
Yeah.
but my impression watching this game was like,
Oh, yeah,
this
I
is
get
just a troll Garen pick. Like he thought he looked up like online what beats Gwen, and he saw that Garen's the worst matchup in lane. He's like, oh, I'll just pick that.
I'm gonna be real with you. I played this matchup a handful of times. I still don't think that I've lost it.
Really? Okay.
That's fair.
I just
The internet told me that Garen can't lose.
yeah. Like it's just surprising to me because that it's considered like unwinnable in lane sort of thing because like it just always felt doable to me. It's just always.
I
Just felt like,
think
oh,
it-
yeah, you just trade.
I
well.
think that's the nature of being able to play your champion, though. Like being able to understand or do it tough.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll be
even
fun.
though Garen's not a complicated champion, he's just a stat stick. Like you have
Yeah.
to know
Mhm.
what his stats are and when you can just do something and you can't just do something. Because that's like, there's not really gameplay to Garen. You just have to know, can I do this right now?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Follow Bear. You just kind of run it.
Yeah, it's just you got to know when his cooldowns are. Fun
Yeah.
jazz.
And as soon as Gwen gets ahead, then there's like you're expecting on Rex's comp, I think, to get pressure through topside, and when you can't get that, then it's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. And we just kind of crumble. And this is a spot where I know, like, after the series, Rafa makes the claims, like, he's up, like, he said 80 CS. I don't know if that's true or not, over War Leader Strundle, and it just didn't matter. And after this game, Ulk Battery said, yo, that was miserable. And we're all just like, yeah. That sucked. And I'll talk about like what we did to reset after this game, but if there's anything more about this game that you want to talk about,
I was gonna
Ahntye.
say it's like I don't know if there anything is more to talk about unless Ahntye, you got anything.
Not off the top. Of my
I do
head,
get a
no.
solo kill later.
Yeah, well, it's just,
Oh, yeah,
there is
yeah.
that, but I think it's more of a situation.
I still
where it's
remember that I got so confused. Like, wait, that killed me? I was like, yeah, I'm sitting here at like, 600 health with W up. I'll be fine. And take like 500 true damage. Like, what the hell?
That's Garen for you.
That's Garen.
Was it this right here?
It was under tower.
No, I think it's up here
in
at
top
the-
lane.
I think
It was towards the end of the game. We had just taken like
The
mid and
secret
bot
crawl
lane hit.
bottom side. Yeah.
Yeah,
Prop Pengu Soul for catching out Zenzen like 3 or 4 times throughout this game and just basically solo killing him.
Pengu
Also,
Soul
they had a
picked
couple
up.
rockets.
Yeah, Pengu Soul picked up Akshan specifically because of Zenzen.
Oh, that's
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like after Zenzen was played Akshan against Pengu Soul, he's like, oh my god, this champ's so fun. I need to start playing him, and he just started playing them. And that's why Pengu Soul is like, yeah, no, Zenzen's just my dad. He's just the one who taught me Akshan.
Yeah. Here, I think there's a possibility that Rex can win this fight, but Zen splits and then it's unplayable from there.
You're also just down gold.
That's what it is.
Also, Gwen.
We are, but we're up a champion.
It's true. But you're down a lot of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being down a lot of gold does make being a stat stick a little bit harder.
Yeah, but
I think that's the death you're talking
There
about,
it
right?
is.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
That's the ulti. I mean, it doesn't even have the villain passive anymore.
No, villain's gone, I think.
No, that's what I mean. Like the fact that it doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, I was like, wait. Hold on, what?
Oh my god. Garen's got through so many changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
At
still
his
a fun
base, he's still
champion.
the same. At his base, he still spins.
All right. Well, and
Also,
so,
Josh, for the record, there's one other game that I played Garen recently. It was I was playing it on 7 high with Zane, and I was up 70 CS on an Nasus at 10 minutes.
I bet that really came in handy for the Nasus matchup in Game 5 or 4, whatever it was.
It was game 4, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So after this game, we had already started talking about Game 4 like 2/3 of the way through this game.
Yeah.
Like we'll play this out. We actually asked us like, do we want to surrender? And we decided, nah, it's kind of BM to the producers. But the big thing we were like is like, just don't attach yourself to the rest of this game. We're gonna play it out. If they make mistakes, great, we'll punish them. If not, whatever. So in this game, we said a couple of things. One, we identified Gwen is the problem. We like to play ranged champions. Zane only plays ranged champions. Alec Battery only plays ranged champions. They can't hit Gwen. So let's get rid of it. That's step one.
Zen should have brought out the Kled. We had something really spicy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Pangu Soul has been a Teemo player for years.
Oh my god.
And he just got buffed. It would have been so fun.
Ooh.
Like,
Okay.
the moment I saw the Teemo buffs, I was like, hey, Derek, remember Zen plays Kled mid? He was like, yeah. And it's like, Teemo got buffed.
Yeah. But anyway, so Gwen being the problem is step 1, and step 2 was I told Rafa and Doc, look, Rafa, we are currently getting run over before you're able to really impact the games. We need to pick you something where you are going to win, where you are going to like carry this game. And I told a similar thing to Doc, like, you need to play to win. We can't be playing to not lose. And so that's why, I don't know if you guys felt it, but that's why we had such a large shift between game 3 and 4, when it's like, Rafa's no longer is hard farming his jungle. He's invading red. He's just going for plays. He's going for dives. And once that turned around, I was a little bit sad that he didn't receive any MVP votes, because I thought he was MVP of the series, personally.
Who?
Rafa.
Oh, I thought Doc and Rafa
I think Doc's
both.
defensible.
I think Doc's defensible, and he got it.
Yep.
I messaged you after this game, actually, because
Yeah, you did.
I said basically the same thing. I said, ban Gwen, you can't deal with it. I also told you to leave Set and Aurelia open, but you didn't listen to me.
You did. I was like, no.
Actually, kind of funny. During game 3, in the middle of the bot, like, remember when I TP'd and you also TP'd bot and we fought down there?
I thought you were teleporting behind my bot lane.
Yeah.
That's why I teleported where I did, and you didn't. I was like, what?
It worked out, but it was kind of funny because I actually specifically said in comms, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, War Leader uploads all our comms like later on, but basically I remember saying specifically, they're playing not to lose, they're not playing to win. Like that was in the middle of game 3. And once game 4 rolls around, so we see the action. Pangu actually has no idea what to play into action.
Oh, it's not Syndra.
Yeah, I don't Pengu's convinced that he has no champions to play into Action.
I don't know what his champion pool is entirely, so maybe.
I was saying, like, how about Lysandre? He's like, no, he just outranges her. I was like, well, what about the Orianna? He was like, I just kind of showed off that Action could kind of dump on Orianna. I was like, well, okay, well, I guess we he said he didn't like Mal's into it. I don't know.
I mean, Zinzin also wanted to play it into the Mels, so.
Yeah, he also just hasn't played it much.
Yeah.
So going into game 4, it's like, okay, well, we'll try out the Syndra. If it doesn't work out, don't worry, it's game 4. Even if we lose game 4, we're going to be blue side next game. They will not have a way to prevent Misfortune from getting through. In the meantime, Tahm Kench is a champion.
Yeah, okay. So a couple things that I want to talk about this game were, one, we were super shocked by the Nasus. We had no idea it was coming. And I remember you and I
been hiding away for a while.
Yeah. You and I talked about, I was expecting the Fiora to come out. Mm-hmm. And I know you were talking about, like, do we play it here?
Probably should have picked Fiora or Kennen.
Yeah. But the thing, Kennen I don't really like into Tahm Kench.
Yeah, neither do I. But
the Nasus, Tahm Kench is my go-to solo queue counter pick.
Yeah, for Nasus.
And you played it really, really well. I actually went to go back earlier on, Sherigan, to there's a spot where neither of us have yet picked up a kill. And the thing about this game is in top lane, we were both able to consistently bounce large enough waves that they were unfreezable. Because that's what the entirety of top lane was, at least from my perspective, was we were both trying to create a freeze against the other so that either he could farm or I could prevent him from farming. And then there's
the
a
hope
spot
that it'll
where...
actually show me on best.
Yeah, like this is a huge. I can't freeze that.
Yeah, no, he can't freeze that. That's the entire thing, is we're trying to make sure that nobody can freeze. But there is a spot where War Leader comes top lane right after Mark does the first dragon.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it showed up on the broadcast, but
it does. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or at least the part that I'm thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. So this is it right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark is about to do dragon here, and he's actually doing it. And so for the first time in the entire game, one of us messes up our wave. And Ahntye is in a spot where if he does not crash this wave, the game is over. Right? Nasus no longer gets to farm. And this is a spot where War Leader has to come up. And there's a couple scary things about this. One, you can pause real quick. One, if Rafa is here, RLS also can lose the game off of this 2v2. Because Diana is going to be really strong, and if he had been doing camps as he's supposed to, like if he had been doing wolves, he hits 6, he comes top, and we win this 2v2, and the game's over. If not Warrior is not here, I get to freeze Ahntye off, and Nasus suddenly doesn't get a farm, he doesn't get to hit his level 9 through 13 power spike, and the game is also effectively over. Because that is like their main like win condition over the next couple of minutes. But a couple of crucial things happen here. One, Rafa is not here. He's doing the dragon. And because dragon is a global announcement, as soon as the dragon goes down, RLS knows Rafa is not here. And this allows War Leader to come in, even though he's not 6, and crash this wave that allows the game to keep on going. And I talked to Shneki and Lolo about this when we were doing like a caster VOD review, but these next like 30 seconds were super, super pivotal because nothing happened. And that in and of itself is really cool, I thought.
And that's one of those things where if you don't have the game knowledge, you're not going to notice and realize just how crucial it is. But
yeah, because for the first time here, like if War Leader's not here, I had just won like a decent trade. I am for the first time strong enough that I can fight to the death here. We both teleport, or we both back away. Probably neither of us kill each other, and we both teleport with the wave still frozen. And if I'm allowed to do that, I zone Nasus out of the game. Because as a brief aside, like Lolo said this on cast, Nasus is not a late game champion. He is a mid game champion. He is really strong, levels 9 through 13. And before that, he's kind of whatever. After that, he just gets kited, right? He doesn't end up doing anything because he can't stick to backline. And he eventually becomes strong again when he can like 1 or 2 tap 80 carries with Q, but that's at like 40 plus minutes into the game.
He does scale purely into late game in the like 1v1 side lane. So like if he's allowed to permanently split, then he's a late game champion. But if he's ever forced to group, he's a mid game champion.
Yeah, the point of the Nasus pick was specifically to force you into the side lane all the time. Because I know that Tahm Kench eventually gets to the point where he can't do anything about Nasus side laning.
True.
Yeah. But that also relies that generally whether or not Nasus gets to be doing that is not up to the Nasus, it's up to the 4v4.
Yeah, and a lot of this game ended up hinging on that, everyone on Rex got an early lead, right? Not necessarily an early lead, but coming into the mid game, Rex was significantly stronger. So we can't really just sit back and let Rex, force fights into us because they're just going to wipe.
Yeah. And I think for us, there's only one other part. So, I mean, I get a couple of solo kills onto War Leader, which, made me feel really good. But the one other part that I kind of want to look at is Dragon 3, I think it is. It's before this. Yeah, this fight. So let's back up another 15 seconds, actually. A little bit farther.
A little bit farther?
Yeah, so we can play this at like half speed. So a couple things happened here that when I went back and looked at this spot again, I was surprised at a couple things. One, Rex, Joushi talks about choke points. He's gonna do it again. Oh my god. So this is a spot where we see them coming through, and Mark is hiding in that tiny fog of war spot, right? If he had jumped on those 3 and ults, I'm pretty sure the game ends instantly. Right, because we just bullet time all 3 of them. Ahntye doesn't really get to play the game, and we end the game right here. If Mark, or even he's got like a 2-3 second window here where if he just like ults these 3 people, we blow them all up, and the game's basically over. Right, because Demon Girl never gets the shield up. Pangusol and Demon Girl are instantly dead. Ahntye is too low to continue fighting. War Leader can try and do something, but he's just not very strong at the moment, so he's going to be in a really rough spot. Instead of Rex fighting for the choke points and fighting them to the death, I always talk about, RLS gets to come into the river, and we can play through this. And there's a window here where because RLS gets into the river, there's a chance for them to actually take this fight on reasonable terms, despite being down 3,500 gold. So let's go ahead and play it through. And there's a brief key moment where as we're trying to jockey for a position and War Leader and Escape are able to join the rest of the team, I know you guys panic a little bit about the teleport that I'm about to go for because you guys kite the wrong direction. You guys all say, let's go try and kill the Tahm Kench. Or I don't know what you say, but that's what you guys try and do. You kite towards the Tahm Kench, and now you guys are split in the fight. If you guys had kited down the river and were able to maintain your front line, the fight becomes playable. But I'm able to separate out Escape. He's not able to participate in this fight, and we're able to get the Rakan Diana. It was a little bit later, and it was still in the same choke, but it was under very different circumstances. And then we also get to see even though Ahntye is 0-0-0. He's still really fucking strong at this point in the game, right? He's walks up against people.
He's got the farm.
Yeah, that's it. But because they walked back into the choke, we were able to find this really large win on the fight. And I have no idea what's going on through this whole thing, right? I'm blind. I'm just well, I can only see Escape. I'm going to run at him, and there's not a lot he can do about it.
Yep.
The play I thought was key in this game, I think happened a little bit earlier, but it was Doc finally getting out of lane and making things happen with Mark, because it felt like the first 3 games, it was Mark, Rafa, make something happen, or nothing happens, and RLS was more adept at making things happen throughout the game. But this game, I think Doc had an early roam mid, I think as soon as he hit 6 roughly, where he and Mark sort of combined to get a nice pick on the Pengu Soul and sort of start getting map pressure. I thought that was sort of the turning point psychologically in the it's like, oh, he's finally doing things early. He's helping his team. He's realized that Mark is not able to generate enough pressure on the map by himself, and bot lane's not really super necessary to have two people there all the time.
Is that the one where Pengu Soul like flashes in?
Maybe.
I think it's First Blood. If we're thinking the same play.
Yeah, you're talking. Oh yeah, I was replaying that one earlier.
Maybe.
Because there was an Akshan picking up that kill.
I thought. Okay, maybe it was First Blood, but I thought it was after Rakan was 6. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe it just looked really clean because he dashed a lot.
Yeah. It was really clean. Like, this is it right here.
This play is This play is not clean.
Yeah, it's not clean at all. But this is.
Maybe it's this. Let me see.
So Zenzen's gonna get exceptionally low right here.
Yep.
And then you've got Rafa going in diving. Rafa's gonna get almost taken out, and then you got Rakan.
Yeah, it is this play. Yeah, I thought he was 6, but okay. But
yeah, this play was really
the play can be messy. Like, I don't think that this is like a super. This is not like a super clean, like, prepared 3v, but just the fact that like you have this Rakan making these roams out of bot lane, I think was really critical for Rex winning this game in the series.
Yeah,
like just the fact, because this didn't happen the first 3 games.
Yeah, that's the mental shift we did. But I want to go back and rewatch this fight again because I talked to Shneki and Lolo because they casted this and I criticized them for it as though this fight was business as usual. And this fight is the most crazy thing in terms of mechanics that has happened all series.
Yeah,
right. So
this play is freaking nuts.
It's hilarious. Zenzen goes in, Pengu Soul flashes over to knock him back, which is one very uncharacteristic of Pengu Soul to go for this, and then it doesn't work. And then Rafa is level 5 right now. Mm-hmm. He jumps in thinking he's gonna ult, doesn't have it because he's level 5, levels up in the middle of the fight underneath the turret, which maybe saves his life, and then Doctor goes back in because Pengu Soul is like, oh shit, Mark's being an idiot, and they double ignite him, Zenzen flashes in, and this is absolutely bonkers. At the same time, War Leader just dinged level 6 over on the red buff, and maybe if he had been like proactive about it, he maybe could have come mid. Like, this was crazy. Everything about this was insane. And it ends up coming out in Rex's favor.
Let me see if they get us a replay. They don't get us a replay on it.
Just watching that play and just seeing that, oh, this Rakan is being active after the first. I mean, this third game is on Yubi, so you don't really get to do anything. But the first 2 games where he made one big Amumu play that ended up not working, and then the Leona game he sort of followed up, but he wasn't making things happen. This game, this play felt like, oh, this is happening because he's here and he's being proactive about it. I thought that was really important.
Yeah, I think that mental shift that, like Joushi said, going for to win rather than to not lose.
Right, and I think that continues throughout this entire game. I think you can see these Rakan engages are just nasty, and it continues in game 5 as well, where Doc is, I think, really helping enable Rafa, and Rafa's helping to enable Doc, and the pair of them sort of are what makes the map playable.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Rex's draft for this one, I kind of feel like it's still in the kinda sorta not lose category, but it definitely does. It's far more aggressive overall with the Tristana and the Nocturne. Let's see, Nocturne, Alistar, not sure.
Yeah,
we knew that Tristana was on the table. We really, really hoped it wouldn't come out.
So
Escape hates Tristana.
Yeah. I've been playing a little bit of Vi lately, and I kind of want to get y'all's take on this. Like, just where is she, do you think, in terms of junglers? I haven't felt as strong on her.
She's a great mid laner.
She's a great mid laner. Okay.
She's strong.
She's a great second mid laner.
They recently made some changes to Vi that spiked her play rate, and then people realized that she was actually quite strong all along, and so they had to nerf some of her numbers. But
I would definitely say
she's worse in competitive 5s than she is in solo queue, because she's so telegraphed in what she's doing, and so it's easier to have counterplay when you can see that and communicate with your 5 teammates to protect the person who's getting Vi ulted. But it's strong. It's hard to avoid the QR out of a mid side lane bush. It's great to, combo with things like the Orianna they've drafted here. It's definitely playable.
I'm not saying it's not playable. I'm just saying it's tougher and it feels harder to do.
It's harder relative to solo queue, but I think it is actually quite strong in solo queue. So I don't think that's the fact that it's slightly harder. I don't think it's coming from such a baseline of it's pretty good. So
I'm also coming from the old day, from the what was it, like season 8, I think, where like you build Yomus and dive in assassin vibe.
Oh, like the straight up full
damage, just go in, just absolute wreck face with one full, like once you hit that third auto attack, you're just gone.
But then you can't build Sterix Gauge, the best item in the game.
Well, you can. You just skip a mythic.
You just skip a mythic,
it's not bad. Jace does it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about the Vi pick was that basically War Leader has a Vi and has like, he used to play Vi a lot, like, a few years ago. And it's one of those things where if he has no idea what else to pick in solo queue, he just kind of goes like, screw it, we'll just play Vi. And this last game, when we had picked the Vi, it was we saw a single damage composition, and we're just like, okay, well, I mean, if we can kill Tristana, then like, sure, we have the Orianna, we have the Misfortune. Let's just kind of draft some sort of engage. And we already locked in the Malphite, and we're just like, okay, so we can't play Nocturne because they took the Nocturne. We can't, there's like a few things that are off the table. And it's like, what about Vi? And then Warleader was like, yeah, Vi.
And then 8 minutes into the game, you're like,
8 minutes into the game, we're just like, we could.
Let's go back to the draft, because I'm curious, one, what Ahntye's thought process going into it was, and then I also want to know what Utility Monster thought of this draft, because one of our coaches that is listed on the screen, Colomer, because in chat, and he didn't know that he was listed as one of our coaches. Neither did Miko. We also actually had a 5th coach who requested that they be added to our coaching lineup, and I think I requested it, but it never got added. So we in fact had 5 coaches, of which Cubby helped like once, and Smacks actually showed up to a couple of our drafts, and he was very helpful.
Smacks was actually involved.
Yeah.
So before we get the actual perspective, let's get the outsiders looking in perspective. Josh, go right ahead.
So after game 3, I told Josh, so I told him actually for game 4, run back what you did in game 2 on blue side, because that worked, and they banned Gwen, and then he picked a good comp, and I think they mostly did. With some, the Recon was new, but game 5, I said, so you, on red side, you have to ban Gwen. You can't let that through. And that means that you probably have to let Misfortune through, or you have to let one of these 2 top laners through that you've been permabanning all series. And I thought that Set and Aurelia are Ahntye's good at the picks, but they're sort of naturally countered by what Joushi likes to play, and sort of started playing after the Graves and Garen disasters, which is team fighting tanks. Like, he's, I think, really good at never losing lane, and then showing up and helping his team to victory in more grouped fights. And Set and Aurelia, if they can't get a lead on you in lane, then they can be neutralized. So pick a Tahm Kench, pick a Malphite, pick something that's gonna survive the lane and be resilient, and then be a better team fighter. And then that way you can leave the Misfortune banned. I think this is defensible as well if you think that you can beat Misfortune, and it turns out that they were right, although Misfortune was terrifying. But I stand by that Aurelia and Set into Joshi's champion pool are less scary than Misfortune on this patch. But the Ornn makes sense. I mean, you're still picking a good tank that's good into everything, team fights well. Nocturne as a takeaway, I think, also makes sense. It's not something that Rafa's uncomfortable with, and it takes it away so you don't have to deal with teleports being harder. Orianna has been Pengusil's default. Leona's good. Tristana's Alk Battery is sort of comfort. He played that a lot before it was nerfed a little bit, but still I think is most played in solo queue. I'm surprised at the Poppy ban. I don't think that Poppy jungle is all that good here. The jungle makes sense.
It's not about the jungle.
Oh, it's the top lane?
I play a lot of Poppy.
Okay. That makes more sense then. So yeah, I don't think Poppy jungle is good here, but okay, that makes sense. I would have wanted to see, I think, a Zac ban, because I know Warleader plays that. I think that's more on theme than the Vi is, actually. Alistar is whatever.
Does kind of get shut down by the Alistar, though.
Alistair, maybe a little bit, but it's not that bad, and it's also much more resilient than Vi in terms of taking the damage, which I think it's, if you know Zenzen's pool, like he's not going to play, he's going to play a backline mage, almost certainly here.
Yeah.
And so it's annoying to play Vi into something like that because you're so committed when you go in, and Zach can, I think, survive that better and is a little bit more disruptive to a group's backline. And I'm not a huge fan of the Malphite, but I don't think it's, I'm
gonna be real with you. At this point, I'm just like, you know what? We need to engage. Also, I have no idea what to play into Ornn that can also engage.
I think Maokai is better if you play it.
My Maokai is too rusty.
Okay, if you don't play it,
Shen, Pumpkin, Maokai are the 3 tanks that
I agree.
beat Ornn.
And Shen is banned.
And those are the 3 tanks I do not play.
Shen is banned. So I think Malphite's fine. I think it's a bad lane matchup, and you get outscaled because of the Ornn items. But I think it's playable. I don't think it's super bad in lane, and you do have so much teamfight agency that I think it's fine. But I think the Vi is a little questionable just because I think you can expect the mage here. And it's so committed. And I think the rest of your team isn't committed. The rest of your team can commit. And so the Vi is on theme if you're committing. But when you pick the Vi, you no longer have the option to like kite back with the Orianna and the Misfortune, which you did before. So I think it limits you. And I think
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. Like normally if you have Orianna Misfortune, like, yeah, you can engage into them, you wombo combo them. But if they engage into you, you still wombo combo them. But if you're doing this with a Vi, like Vi is not like screening for the Nocturne coming in. Vi is not able to sit down with your Misfortune and stop her from dying nearly as well as a more traditional tank. Like, so Zach would be my pick, but I think there's probably other things. But it's not that it's bad. It's just you have fewer options.
There's other options.
You have fewer options.
Yeah, I was gonna say
you can get the same options, but also have other options. So you're really all, and if your team dynamic and plan is we're going to go all in regardless, and that's like how you play the team, then this is fine. Like Yubi would do this, right? Like we like to just go fight people in team fights. Like Brian goes in, I go in, everyone follows, we fight. So this would make sense from that. But I don't think I think RLS is much more of a defensive team fighting team around Escape and Pengu Soul. So I think that having a tank with more defensive options in the jungle makes more sense to me. But I also think that it can make sense. I don't think it's like objectively bad.
With the Leona Malphite, it makes perfect sense because you've got the
exactly. It makes sense, but I don't think it makes sense for RLS's players, even if it makes sense on paper as like these 5 champions.
Well, Ahntye, that's all right.
I mean, the thing is, like, game 5, we're all hella tired. We're just like, you know what?
Yeah, and that's defensible.
If we pull the trigger and we have the lead, we're just gonna kill them all. So let's go for it.
I do like that of like, we know that we're mentally tired. Game 4 we felt just running out of steam. Let's just pick something. We all press R. It works or it doesn't.
Pretty much,
yeah. And I also knowing that world leaders sort of default to this, like I think you always want to default to something that you, because you're exhausted, and this is what Joushi was talking about, like just having the muscle memory of like, this is how I play League of Legends is super important. So knowing that he is historically a Vi player, I think also makes it a better pick. So I don't think either of these drafts is bad, but I think that RLS is very all in on something that ends up not working.
Yeah, this is very much all the chips on the table.
Yeah.
Sherry, you have any more thoughts?
I really don't. Like honestly, I feel like this game was pretty much in Rex's favor. It was a very, very short one. And
it was basically Misfortune got some kills, and everyone else on Rex got a lot of kills, and Misfortune.
It was kind of like, I feel like this game closes out the same way that the Yubi HBK game does, where it's like Rex is finally like, okay, we're done. Let's just get out, and just blows right through RLS the same way Yubi blew through HBK.
Yeah. And that type of mental exhaustion, I think, makes sense if you've lost, both the first 2 games in sort of close games that you expected to win. But it also makes sense in the best of 5 series. Like, you've played 4 games already. You've been playing League of Legends for, including the time between games, like 5 hours.
Right, exactly. Like, and I think one thing that's interesting is neither of these game sets. Like, I think now is actually kind of an interesting thing to talk about, is kind of like to wrap up the games, because there's a few other things I'd like to talk about, just relating to friend or foe, just kind of as a general thing.
Sure. Can I talk about the draft before we end that?
Oh, yeah, this draft, absolutely.
Yeah. So this draft from Rex was. Oh, you're good. This was very inspired by. There's a League of Legends coach, Twitter guy, goes by Wolverine, and Rafa and I actually Wait, do we have Dimitri on our team? I think we did. Yeah, Rafa, Dimitri, and I played on a team recently for like Proving Grounds, and like all those casters and producers and stuff come together at the end, and we have a tournament where it's like a captain's draft, and Rafa drafted Dimitri and I, and then a couple other players, and our coach was like, hey, we're gonna give them Misfortune, and our goal is to get Nocturne, Shen, and Karthus, right? Just to shut down this Fortune really, really hard, and just say, you never ever get to bullet time, because we are going to be on top of you and we're going to kill you from a screen away. Good luck playing. And this was kind of inspired by that, right? We wanted Ornn, Nocturne, and Ziggs as kind of the 3 picks that we wanted to say, hey, you never get to bullet time ever during this game, because every time you do, we're just going to jump on you and it's going to be super miserable. And that was our entire goal. You know, at the very beginning of the day, we said, Doc said, never give Miscape Misfortune. And so we had to figure out, one, I wanted to maintain the RLS set despite utility monsters' protestations, and we needed to ban the Gwen. And that meant that we had to give up we were either going to be the set ban or the Misfortune ban. We decided the Misfortune because we had a strategy that we could play against it. And so when we went through with it, we ended up getting a lot of things that were kind of comfort, but not something that we'd really practice going into this, because it was inspired based on the idea of like, we want to shut Escape down this time. We want to make sure that he never gets to play this game. And I feel like despite the fact that he got a bunch of kills, whenever Rex was playing reasonably well, that generally happened.
I will say that, you know, leaving Irelia open, I mean, you know, it's a super big comfort pick, and it's a question of, you know, whether or not I can do anything with it. I don't honestly think that Irelia really needs to get ahead in lane to still terrorize the backline, because that's just how it works out. But leaving the set open, I think that it's actually really, really good that you didn't, because we actually have set as a 3-way flex. Yeah. So, and we never brought it out during the regular season, but we were at 100% ready to just lock in set, like first pick blue side anytime that we had the opportunity to, and then just flex it bot as a support, or, you know, flex it mid if necessary. So
Yeah, I also thought it was really interesting that Volibear just like dropped out after game 2. It just like happened. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. Was I feel like we had this, you know, idea of how we wanted to play, and obviously, you know, we had a big wrench thrown in when Rafa comes out with a double kill bottom lane, and after he counter ganks War Leader's Vibe, and from there he just gets another couple of kills, and he just becomes this ballistic missile that is incredibly difficult to deal with for anybody. And once he had done that, he had sufficiently bridged our early game into the late game where Ornn, Tristan, and Ziggs are untouchable.
Yeah. Even though his build sucks, because he built without a Nocturne.
Yeah, we talked about the, you know, I think the Youmu's was fine, but then after that, it definitely needs to be something else. Stridebreaker,
Sterak's Nocturne is the way to go. I would know. Everyone bans Nocturne against me. I must be good at Nocturne.
By the way, lane Nocturne, can't
terrible.
play it anymore.
Unplayable garbage.
Your passive now does less damage to the target that you're trying to last hit. I've lost so many cannons to my passive over the past like 4 games that I've tried to play it.
Just don't play it.
I feel bad because like, you know, that feel when no anime BF, our sub mid laner who was like listed on our roster for a bit, he used to play a lot of top Nocturne and top Kayn, and then they nerfed it and he uninstalled me.
Well, that's kind of how it goes sometimes. And that was actually, you bring up the subs, and that's actually one of the things I wanted to point out, is neither of these sets, Yubi versus HBK and RLS versus Rex, I don't believe either of y'all pulled out any subs. So
we had a few strategies in place that involved Kieri subbing in for me, but we ended up being like, okay, you know what? The biggest thing is that if you're subbing in someone, having a fresh voice is really, really nice. But Kieri's very much a lane-focused player and doesn't really talk too much in terms of shot calling, and I, on the other hand, am very much a large voice for the team, so it would be hard to kind of just slot in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I pinged all of our subs to make sure that they were available if we needed them, but I had no intention of ever subbing somebody in unless we needed to.
Right. Well, I was just saying from a mental exhaustion standpoint, that may have been something that I don't think for the Rex RLS game, I think you guys were kind of, it is your kind of like on the fence sort of a thing, but I wonder if for HBK that might have been something that they, just someone to swap out for someone who got super tilted. Just that having those options is important, and I think something in the future.
I mean, maybe, but also you're losing a lot to do that. I think that it's almost never worth it.
You think subs are almost never worth it?
Yeah.
I do think that, for example, in the RLS versus CFG game 5, the reason why we subbed out was because our support's internet was literally unplayable.
Yeah. If you can't play the game, of course it's worth it. Like, you'd rather have 5 people than 4 people.
It's just, I will say that, having Red in mid lane, being like a fresh voice who was not like tired or anything like that, definitely did change a lot in terms of team dynamic and made the game significantly more controllable than I feel like if we still were able to play. Then again, we probably would have won game 4 if Sky had a playable internet.
It also gave us the best RLS acronym yet, Red Love Substitute.
This is true. All right. Well,
I think you're losing so much synergy you've built up. If you're subbing out one of your typical like shot calling players or playmaking players who's tilted, and that's why they're making bad decisions. Yes, they maybe like are playing below their standard, and it's costing you because they're a playmaker. But you're also losing the potential of them turning it around and playing well. And if your team is built around this person being a playmaker, then that's really bad. And if you're subbing out, a role player, someone who's designed to slot into your team effectively, it's unlikely the person you're bringing in is going to slot in nearly as effectively, even if they're mechanically slightly better, or aren't as tired on the day or whatever. And I think you almost always are going to lose more than you gain, unless you have a very specific like champion pool difference and you're planning strategically around it, and it's almost never the case.
Yeah, I mean, like, it kind of reminds you of like Bangy and Blank, for example, on SKT back in, what was that, 2015, where subbing in definitely is it's a very different kind of dynamic than all of the FoF teams have. But I do want to look forward to seeing some teams bring out the we've actually practiced with 6 different people on this.
Yeah, and it makes, I think, more sense as well if it's not like a 5 starters and 1 sub type thing, but if it's like, we have 7 players and whoever is able to make it plays, then it's more of a team dynamic and you're more cohesive playing, mixing and matching, and that makes maybe more sense. But no FoF teams are currently like that.
Right, and I think that's definitely something that if you were to compare amateur scene to pro scene, like that's where you're going to see that difference, because in pro scene you've got people who are consistently expected to be practicing with the team, consistently expected to be maybe filling in gaps that other members of the team don't do, like you mentioned, doing the whole building strategies around champion pools. And so for an amateur team, it's very difficult to do, and I think it's purely a matter of refreshing energy pool at that point.
Or literally scheduling, because we're not professional players and we have other things to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. I'm talking specifically for a 5v5 though. Specifically for a 5v5, it's refreshing the energy pool. And if you've got those people available to make. It's something I just noticed that I thought was kind of interesting.
I think one other thing that I would add to that is, because most teams in FoF are just like a group of friends, right? The only time I would ever, even if I thought it was a situation where somebody was playing poorly and I wanted to sub them out, I would never do that unless they requested to get subbed out.
Right.
In purely like a sense of trying to win, maybe not the best idea, but I play with these guys because they're my friends. I'm not going to disrespect them by saying, hey, I don't want you on my team for this game.
The one team actually that I respect the hell out of for doing that is INT. So they have X Delta and Fish Magish as subs. Both of those players, I think, are potentially better than their starters, especially Delta, because he plays like 5 roles at a high plat level. It's disgusting. And Fish is a really good top laner. And Broccoli is also good, so it's, maybe the drop-off's not big, but Fish is really good. But they play Evolve Noob, who I think is a weak. I rated him 8th in the Helios mid lane. I think it's a little bit of a hot take. I don't think he's necessarily 8th, but I don't think he's a strong point. Yeah, but I don't think he's a strong point in the team. And I think that you notice it sometimes where it's like, oh, bro, Bo Explodes is such a strong jungler, but he doesn't have this mid jungle pressure that you would expect given his individual play. But they play as a friend group. I mean, like that's the reason that they play these 5 people. Like that's the friend group. It's like that's. I should be playing League of Legends. It's because I want to go have fun with my friends in this semi-competitive setting, but it's a game. I'm trying to have fun, and that is way more important. Like I think that is the. I think Ahntye, like as a team, is the sort of the best example of like here's how you should approach FoF. At least I don't know their team dynamics, so maybe they think it's super toxic and they hate each other. But
you never know. You never know.
On the outside looking in, Ahntye looks like the ideal FoF team to me.
Well, okay. So I just want to say congratulations to Rex and great job Ahntye as well in RLS. Just it was like one hell of a series. Like I said, I think that the best of 5 between epitome. Like we talk about Ahntye being the epitome of like an FoF team. I think this is like FoF series, and we're always looking for. So great up, congratulations.
Broke the viewership record for a reason.
Exactly. I think we broke triple digits. It was like 100 and some odd.
116?
Yeah, something like that.
It was the 100 teens.
We got to get our averages up just a little bit more, and I think we'll hit that partner level, and then we'll be able to it'll be awesome. So we're getting there.
I know
we're getting there.
For Rex, we hadn't tweeted really about it much at all leading up to it, partly because we expected it to be kind of one-sided, and partly because it's just like, we were having a lot of fun, but when we hit game 5, we're just like, okay, this means a lot more to us now. And so we started tweeting about it.
Oh, I see. So you're the reason we haven't had full viewership lately.
There were a lot of first-time viewers because I'm a mod in the Twitch channel, and I can see like when people post in chat for the first time. And there were a lot more first-time viewers. It was the funniest thing was one of your coaches was a first-time viewer.
Yep.
So that was amusing. Yeah. But there were a lot of people who clearly like someone reached them. I don't know, Rex or I know FoF staff were all tweeting. I'm sure RLS
we hit
was
that algorithm,
messaging the Ruby League server, telling everyone to get in there.
It's kind of interesting because I think I'm like of the people on RLS, the only ones who really use social media are Demon Girl and me. And Demon Girl mostly just kind of posts memes every now and then, but like I have a decent amount like following. So I looked in the chat and was like, oh shoot, like I see Dunkshy, I see like, these other people, and it's like, oh yeah, I see a bunch of people from the Rivals scene, cheering us on, and it's just a lot of fun. Yeah. And I think War Leader got his fraternity brothers to hop in as well. That's my friend, one of my friends, Philip, got his mom and his grandma to watch.
It is awesome when that happens.
We love our grandmas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know my parents watched my finals. That was funny. They have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, no, I've had family and friends like watch it because I was doing the shoutcast, and they're like, oh yeah, I have no idea what's going on, but you make it engaging. So I was like, awesome. Which actually, so for everyone who is watching it has made it this far into the lounge, thank you. I do want to say that the Twitch channel is going to go a little bit quiet for a little bit just because the season, but we do have some stuff that's coming up that we're really excited about. We are going to be doing Friend or Foe Valorant. That is going to happen. We do not have an exact date down, so I don't know if you 3 play Valorant at all, but definitely we will be having a Friend or Foe Valorant tournament coming up. I don't know if it's going to be a full series like this, or if we're going to do like a one-off weekend thing, kind of like our winter stuff that we've got kind of planning. I don't know off the top of my head if the winter event is going to occur. I know that we've got some planning in place, and there's some I've heard rumblings of a 1v1 tournament coming up here.
I believe that's not happening.
It was all canceled. There were too many scheduling conflicts around Thanksgiving to make it a big event.
This is what happens when you're gone for 2 weeks. You hear about things that are like going on, and then something happens, and you're just like, okay, I'm out of the loop. So
none of the teams could really make it work. So maybe Rex and Yubi will find some time in December to do an unofficial super final.
I mean, I'd love to play HBlock, but I'm not sure if HBlock really wants to play us enough to do something that's like not FoF sanctioned. So
yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing. So talking about not FOF sanctioned, I am going to be running a Halo tournament in January, February, because Halo Infinite's coming out. Multiplayer's gonna be free. You should all just get it just because you can get it.
I can't play shooters. I literally can't.
Same.
You know, you say you can't play shooters, but who knows who's going to be in this? And I don't
enjoy them.
That's disappointing because it's Halo. Halo's awesome.
I played Valorant a few times because it's a Riot game, and so maybe it's a different shooter.
No. It is.
I got a kill once.
So, here's my thing. I'm not a big fan of Counter-Strike style shooters. I like Valorant. I think it's fun, but I'm really bad at it because time to kill.
There's different kinds of shooters?
There are.
Yes,
because
there's a lot.
There's a lot
There's
of different kinds of shooters. So with Valorant, your time to kill is like 0.5 seconds. As in how long it takes one bullet to take you out. With Halo, it's gonna take you like about 3 to 5 seconds, which means you have a possibility of turning it around and doing some crazy outplay.
So it's more embarrassing when I miss over and over.
Exactly. It is way more embarrassing and it's way funnier to watch.
Gotcha.
So it will make for much better content if you were to join our Halo tournament than to join our Valorant tournament. So that's what I need you to do. I need you to play Halo.
I will say that as far as Valorant is concerned, there's been quite a few nights lately where in the RLS server, I'm literally just sitting there grinding rivals and everyone else is shouting about the Valorant game that they're in. So yeah,
I mean, I'm friends in League with a bunch of other people and other teams, and I can see them playing a lot more Valorant than League these days. I'm looking at you, Bo Exploding Red.
Yep, a lot more Valorant. I don't know if we're gonna do Final Fantasy. I know that there's a lot of members of this server. Again, I'm gonna put the links for the Discord down below so that you can actually check it out. I encourage everyone to drop by there. There's also a feature request. So if there's ever anything you want to do, greatly appreciate the input. Be like, hey, we'd like to do this kind of a tournament. I know New World is really popular among a lot of players. So I know that there are clans that have just kind of formed naturally that way. So there's always ways to join and play with FOF people. But specifically, I did want to make sure that we announced that there is going to be a Friend or Foe Valorant tournament. There is going to be a Halo event of some kind. I'm still waiting to see exactly what features are going to be available on launch and what sort of matchmaking is going to be available and what people are interested in. So, because I'm going to be the one running it, that sort of thing. And I don't know if there's going to be a prize pool. I don't know if it's going to be... and if there is, I'm not exactly sure what specifically it's going to be, or if it's just going to be an in-house, let's play Halo and let's see who's the best kind of thing.
Well, the prize pool, even for the League tournament, is just a charity donation.
Well, exactly. So that's what I mean. Like, I don't even know what if like it'll be a charity donation or if it'll be something relating to Halo, because you know there's all sorts of stuff that comes out around that time. So
I will say that cash prizes are not allowed for online tournaments in a handful of states, so it's hard.
That's what I mean. That's why I say when I say prize pool, I'm talking about like skins or event passes, that sort of thing. Because again, don't know what Halo's offering. It will all be related to that.
Speaking of charity, which charity do you guys choose, Joushi?
We have not talked about it.
You have not chosen a charity? You guys are disgusting.
SMH.
We chose ours to the Malaria Consortium, which is one of the most cost-efficient ways to save lives.
That is one of the most cost-efficient to save lives. All right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. This is kind of like gone quiet.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of gone quiet now. Again, just wanted to announce that we've got the FOF Valorant, Halo coming up. The winter thing appears has been owned or canceled. I know scheduling conflicts are a thing, but hey, maybe we'll organize something in-house, because I know...
Either way, we've been having a lot of in-houses lately in the server, so...
There have been. The server's been a lot more active, I've noticed, just as a general rule, just when I check Discord. You talked about how you have really good social media presence, Ahntye. I have an absolute garbage social media presence, and I'm not... Like, I'll just like pop in the Discord and be like, oh, looks like something's going on. Okay, cool. Just drift off and go do whatever.
This is what you call like a niche internet micro-celebrity, you know? Like, you got like 500 followers, and you're just like, hey, you know, I can post something, and then I can wonder if all of my followers have me muted. Because like
you
like
can, and then you get this sudden influx of people who are like, oh my gosh, people notice me. What?
Exactly.
Everyone follows Joushi and he thinks it's because he's a good caster, but it's actually because he's just too hot. No one actually reads his stuff.
Exactly.
Just like, oh, Joushi pick, thank you.
Yeah, you know, like I had followed, you know, Rafa, I'd followed Doc, I'd followed Zen, I believe, and you know, Joushi, he was there, and then he posted the video of him with his shirt off, and it was just had to happen.
Yeah, dude, when he came out with the Cocktober pumpkin special,
dude, that was nuts. That was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to Joshi's OnlyFans.
I'll have a link for that down in the description below as well. Yeah. I do want to say I haven't noticed. Was there a "You Ain't Shit" post, Joushi?
Yeah, it didn't get a lot of traction this time. I don't think it was my best work, but I needed to put something out, you know?
I come on, man. Like, you kept putting the solo kills, but I was the only one who called you hot.
I had to find everything cool that I did that I could fit into a video. There was not that many things. I'm not that kind of player.
That's true.
All right. Well. Before we close it out, then, Ahntye, Joushi, Utility Monster, do you have anything you'd like to shout off? Just kind of before we go into the ether of break.
If you want to do like cast or VOD reviews, I'm down.
Yep.
Let me know. I know ProLupo also asked for a gameplay VOD review. Like, if people want that, like, I could probably do it. But
hey, I know that you've got me slated at some point.
yeah, we could probably do that today if you have time. I'm not doing anything else.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, if you have not played FoF and you're watching this, then first of all, why do you have no life? And second of all, join FoF.
Absolutely.
It's really fun.
It's honestly, I think the community that we built up is awesome.
Yeah, speaking as someone who last season we got 7th place in the Mythic League, and then this season 2nd place in Helios, I'd say, you know, if you're hopping in as just like a bunch of friends, why not?
Yeah, you'll have
Just have fun with it.
Yeah, and
Now,
I know
RLS, that's 7th place out of 7 teams, by the way.
Yes, 7th place out of 7 teams in which they were severely outclassed in rank.
Hey, to be fair, we were technically outclassed and ranked in this season too, just not quite as much. You know, instead you got gold players versus platinum players instead of gold players versus mid diamond low challenger.
Yep. There were a couple of those. All right. Well, with that,
we won a game.
Yeah. Hey, you know, honestly, I think that was why you guys did so well, because y'all were really unfair. You got to go through the crucible of training against those challenger level players. That was an experience that none of the other people in the Helios League had.
They won a game, the other team so games, they quit the league.
That's really
straight
true.
up.
Well, as always, we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Adobe Creative Cloud and Logitech Gaming. We greatly appreciate all of your support on there. And to all of the folks who, again, have made it this far into the lounge, I know this was a really long one. We really appreciate you doing that. I really appreciate you doing that. I've been having a lot of fun producing this. I do not plan to put a break on this. I will find things to talk about, be that Arcane or anything Riot has put out, because this whole Riot X thing is getting kind of nuts, where they're just jumping across platform.
Oh yeah.
Like just cross game, even, just in general. So either it will be part of FoF, where we're talking about friend or foe related things, or I'll just be running it as kind of my thing, Arrogant's gaming corner or something like that. We'll just talk about gaming in general. So we'll be doing that. And then for everything else, thank you all so much. Really appreciate your support. We'll see you on the Rift. We'll see you in the Discord. So just have a great day.